Hey people, it is Saturday, July the 29th, and time is 9:32 in the evening. It's currently a very pleasant 20 degrees Celsius with very light humidity, maybe bringing the temperature just up a few degrees warmer. A very nice break from the heat and humidity we've had the previous few days. And I am on Spadina Avenue, just crossing College Street. So I'm going to be walking south through Chinatown along Spadina Avenue down to Dundas, and then I'll continue through Chinatown east along Dundas Street, and then I'll continue beyond that through Little Tokyo further east along Dundas Street. And we'll take a look at all the bright lights along the way. It's a pretty lively night downtown. I think a lot of people are glad the oppressive humidity is gone. And dare I say, this is almost perfect nighttime walking conditions. So I'm sure a lot of people wanted to come out tonight and enjoy it. Lots of great restaurants all the way down the street on both sides. And Dundas Street is quite wide, as you can see. It has a dedicated streetcar line running down the center with 2 traffic lanes on each side. But it doesn't take away from the busyness of the sidewalks. It's still a very pedestrian heavy street. Some of these restaurants have been here for decades, and some of them only the last few years. The neighborhood has changed quite a bit in recent years, but it seems to have sprung back very nicely from the lull that it went through from 2020 to 2022, and it was really quite hurting around here for a while. This is quite a low-slung street. The buildings tend to be 2 or 3 floors, with a few exceptions, a few taller ones here and there, but quite low-slung. But in recent years, there have been some new additions that have kind of went a bit beyond that, up into the mid-rise territory. Lots of new residential buildings are starting to pop up, sort of intensifying the street.
That's a long time. It's been.
There's an awesome view of part of the skyline from here. You can see the CN Tower brightly lit up. All the bright lights in the entertainment district and the financial district just to the east. Well, this corner has been all derelict and boarded up for years now. There was actually a building here which has since been destroyed or demolished, I suppose. So I think this is a prime site for another mid-rise development here on this corner. And my gut feeling tells me that's exactly what will happen here. And lots of the restaurants in Chinatown are open very late. Many of them well past midnight. Across the street you can see some construction hoarding. Some old buildings were actually demolished there to make way for a mid-rise residential building. So of course I think the retail and restaurants that were there will hopefully come back in some form in keeping with the neighborhood. And these weren't very notable buildings. I think only one story tall, actually, one of them was. So it's not a big loss to the neighborhood by any means to lose these old buildings. I think the new development will actually improve things. You can see 2 streetcars passing in the night. I've been here before.
What's the reason?
I think all the colorful signage is the best part of walking through Chinatown at night. Approaching Dundas Street, so Spadina and Dundas is the main intersection of Chinatown. Got some larger buildings here, close to the corner of Dundas. And here's a souvenir shop. You'll find a number of these also in the neighborhood, selling sort of kitschy Canadiana. Stuffed mooses and mounties and many things with maple leaves emblazoned and CN towers. I'm not sure if this is just closed for the evening or if it's closed permanently. One closes at 8:30 p.m. This one uncharacteristically early for Chinatown. And there's one of the two shopping malls in the neighborhood. That's Dragon City Mall. And a bit further south down Spadina is the Chinatown Center. And here's Dundas. So instead of going straight down Dundas from here, I think I'll continue south for a bit further along Spadina and then make my way back up the other side to Dundas. And then we'll start heading east. Because there is quite a bit of Chinatown along Spadina south of here.
I literally cannot. Yeah, basically.
And it also continues for a few blocks west along Dundas Street and bleeds into the Kensington Market neighborhood, which is right next door. I think the Chinatown Center Mall and the Dragon City Mall, I think, are closed now. I think they closed at 9. There's another souvenir shop. And as we get closer to Queen to the south, the buildings start to get a bit bigger with more floors. Some of them are actually quite nice, some of these old warehouse style buildings. I think lots of them have been converted to residential lofts up above or office space. And here's the other mall, the Chinatown Center. I've done videos touring through both of these malls if you're curious to see what they're like on the inside. So here's Sullivan Street. So I think I'm going to cross to the other side here. This is where Chinatown starts to sort of peter out as it gets closer to Queen Street. By the time you're at Queen and Spadina, there's really no hint of Chinatown whatsoever. Maybe I'll cross at the next one over and we can get a look at Sonic Boom. Probably the best record store in the city. And if you're ever wondering which streetcar you need to catch, 510 Spadina. Sounds like there's a party going on one of these upper floors here. So here's Sonic Boom. This is a relatively new addition to the neighborhood. It was originally located in the annex on Bloor Street. They had to relocate. I think their building was sold and the rent got jacked up. But I think their new home is a lot nicer than where they were originally, even if the original location is probably more iconic in the minds of Torontonians. And the original location did make an appearance in the Scott Pilgrim movie in 2010. So it is immortalized there at least. And here's another souvenir shop. I've never actually tried to count how many there were in the neighborhood. My guess is at least a half a dozen.
You're like,
so in the daytime, the sidewalks up and down Spadina are lined with vendors who display their wares, and a number of the supermarkets also have all their fruits and vegetables on display out in front, but I think that's all packed up for the night now. But it's a very busy atmosphere in the daytime in a different way than it is at night. You can see this supermarket here. It's not all restaurants and souvenir shops. You'll find other types of stores as well. Gems and watches. Another souvenir store. Back at Spadina and Dundas. So now we're going to head east along Dundas. Another supermarket or two up in that direction. Now here the street is much narrower and tends to have a bit more of a closed-in feel. I think this is a bit more in keeping with people's traditional perception of what a Chinatown would look like than on Spadina itself. The narrow streets, a lot more cluttered looking. And there's a bit more variation with the buildings also along Dundas. And the signage is even more chaotic with many of these below ground shops and restaurants. And it's not all Chinese here. There's lots of Vietnamese restaurants also in the neighborhood. And some Korean as well, although there's a separate neighborhood called Koreatown. That's to the north along Bloor Street. And here's another souvenir store. You can see some of these kitschy Canadiana items I was talking about. You want your CN Tower? You can find it here.
So when is
This one has a bit of everything in here.
okay?
And here's Huron Street. There are a few more shops and restaurants along here as well. It only extends for about a block or so, and then it reverts to a commercial or a residential street after this block. But there's some funky lighting.
The only time my car, or no, I went to Kodo one time.
Good evening. This one you have to go upstairs to get to the restaurant. are a number of these spas and massage parlors also.
So I have a choice to stay home.
My counterpoint to that.
There's a Korean restaurant. As I was saying before, a lot of these restaurants are open till 2, 3, 4, even 5 in the morning in some cases. And there's probably at least a few 24-hour establishments as well. But I think a large number of them do close at around 10 or 11, or 12 at the latest, but there's certainly no shortage of late night options if 12 midnight is too early for you. And we're coming out of Chinatown. So Dundas Street passes by the Art Gallery of Ontario, and there's a number of other smaller galleries along the way. So for the next couple of blocks, things will get a bit more subdued and less colorful, but after that we start to come into Little Tokyo and things brighten up again. There's the Art Gallery of Ontario. Be careful. Things certainly do get a bit darker here along this stretch. There's no colorful signage to brighten things up. There's a number of these smaller galleries across from the big Art Gallery of Ontario.
No, it's not happening.
It's crossing McCall Street. Awesome view of the CN Tower to the south. And a new residential tower going up here on this corner.
Oui, dans d'autres. Genre Negan dans The Walking Dead.
Here's a rendering of the tower that's under construction here.
Serious, I get the banana for sale?
Avant, il a fait de méchants. Ouais, pas faire. Mais avant, il avait joué dans le Anatomie ou un patient, là, il avait.
And you'll hear just about every language under the sun as you walk around through downtown Toronto. And here the 501 Queen is running along Dundas Street due to the construction along a portion of Queen Street for the new Ontario Line subway. So the Queen streetcar has been diverted to Dundas for part of its route. I think between McCall, which is right back there, and Broadview to the east, it runs along Dundas Street. We're just about at University Avenue. The buildings are getting ever taller as we come into the heart of downtown. Crossing University Avenue.
Ça prend un peu. Tu vois, il y a un petit soupçon de.
There's a look south, and we're going to cross to the other side as we come into Little Tokyo. Very nice view looking south. Now, unlike Chinatown, Little Tokyo isn't really an official neighborhood, but it just has been dubbed so over the last 10 years or so, since a number of Japanese restaurants have tended to cluster along the few blocks of Dundas here between University and Bay. This area was originally called Old Chinatown before it was renamed Little Tokyo, because some of the remnants of the original Chinatown were still along Dundas here, and there are still a number of Chinese restaurants along with the Japanese ones, and there's also a fair number of Korean and Vietnamese. You'll find just about every sort of East Asian cuisine, really. But Japanese does sort of predominate more than any other. A number of these have closed down, though, over the last few years, and nothing has replaced them yet, so this neighborhood lost a bit of its liveliness, in my opinion, since 2019. And not as many places stay open late as in Chinatown. This one closes at 9.
I can also order.
And she's like, yeah. So she's like, it's better to come here today.
And up ahead you can see the bright lights of the Yonge-Dundas area with all of its large electronic screens. More streetcars passing in the night. This place is still doing great business. I'm not sure how late it stays open. Let's see. 11. It stays open to 11. Maybe I'll cross to the other side, the last block or so. There's more restaurants on the north side than there is on this block along the south side. There's a supermarket here. Not a Japanese supermarket, just a regular old Canadian supermarket chain. Let's see if I can get across here. Got a number of Korean restaurants here. This one is open till 2 a.m. And there's downtown's only Denny's across the street. It is open 24 hours at least. Better hope they don't hit a pothole. And here's Bay Street. I think the original Uncle Tetsu's Japanese cheesecake was actually located just right over here. But they moved. But there were long lineups here for several years after it first opened. I think they're across the street now. There's a look north up Bay. And the moon is looking pretty nifty tonight. Competing with the towers of the financial district. There's Uncle Tetsu. Just walking past the atrium on Bay. Yeah, we're just about at Yonge-Dundas. The flagship Muji store is here at the atrium, and across the street at the Eaton Center is a very large Uniqlo store, so that sort of wraps up the Japanese theme as we walk along this last leg of this nighttime tour of Chinatown and Little Tokyo. Here's the Muji. And here's our big scramble crossing, closest thing we have to Tokyo, here at Yonge-Dundas. And I'm happy to say that the city is cracking down on the amplified preachers who use very loud speakers as they preach, so I think that's a good thing. They can still preach, of course, just not with the aid of a loud amplifier. I think it'll make things a lot easier to bear if you're spending any amount of time here at Yonge-Dundas. And there's the Uniqlo store. So I hope you enjoyed the walk through Chinatown and Little Tokyo here on a very busy Saturday night, as we find ourselves once again at Yonge-Dundas Square. So leave a comment down below if you enjoyed the walk, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also be sure to hit that notification bell, that way you won't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal, as well as via my merch store. And there's also a super thanks button right down below if that's how you'd prefer to support the channel. And you can find me on Instagram under K Continuum if you're on there. So thanks for watching. And be sure to keep checking back because, as always, and I think someone just won that hang for 100 seconds, win $100 thing. I've never seen anyone win that before. So as I was saying, thanks for watching, and be sure to keep checking back because, as always, I will continue.